There's been a lot of interest in having a quick and dirty tutorial on using n1mm plus for the CWT event that occurs on Wednesdays. The program can actually be used in pretty much any contest you can imagine, not necessarily for CW, but for also digital and phone. For this tutorial, I'm just going to walk through the bare bones that are necessary to get it set up for CWT that's on Wednesdays. Outside of the scope of this tutorial are configuring it for your individual radio, setting up the function keys, or adding a user-defined contest such as the K1USN. If there's interest in those, hit me up at jim@wt8p.com and I'll be happy to do a tutorial for that. The first thing to see here is this is how I've laid out my workspace. On the top left is a picture of the band. There's not a lot going on right now. It's Sunday late afternoon on 20 meters. If I were connected to the reverse beacon network, what I would see is occasional stations pop up based on the filters that I've selected. The top center dialog here is a list of the calls that I've logged for this particular event. Now, since I'm just starting, I end up with a blank event. This main window here kind of controls everything. It's where I enter in logs, where I select contest. So when I set up for CWT, the first thing I do is I do new log, and it presents me with this myriad of contests and stuff. So half the battle is figuring out which one of these events is the one that you want. So spoiler alert, CWOPS is the one for this. So what this does is it fills out some core fields. I am unfortunately very low power, and I'll go ahead and fill in my exchange as Jim2456, my CWT number. One of the advantages that n1mm plus gives you is it can actually load in the call log. So here I've preloaded the call history for the whole CWOPS membership list. If I wanted to update that, I would hit change. It would ask me if I want to download it from the website. This is actually going out to n1mm's plus download directory. Since CWT is a pretty common contest, it's really easy to do that. There's actually been no changes because I already updated it today. But typically you'll see 2 or 3 a week, and then at the end of any CW Academy course, there's usually an influx of a couple dozen depending on who joins. Alright, so that being said, once I configure my contest, it's set up for a start date of the future at 1300 because that's the nearest one to the date. So we'll go ahead and dismiss that. So I have 2 options on here. I can run or I can search and pounce. So if I'm running, I'm basically holding on to a frequency and I'm calling CQ. So I'm purposely going to sidestep what I've programmed these buttons to do, but basically this is calling CQ CWT with my call sign. All right, so now suppose I get a call back from Joe, KH6FHI. I can enter in his information, and if I've worked him before and hit space key, it'll pre-fill in stuff that I hear. So Joe calls back, and I send my exchange. Which is basically his call sign, my first name, and my CWOPS number. So Joe will respond either a resend or sending his name and first number. So then when I'm done, I can just hit thank you. And at that point, then I just hit return, and it's going ahead and going and logging it. Easy peasy. The other mode to use here is the search and pounce mode, which will be pretty familiar to y'all. So suppose I'm dialing around the frequency. I can go ahead and tune via radio, and you can kind of see where this is connected to my radio, so it's following along. And lo and behold, there's Buzz on the air. So I enter his call sign, AC6AC. I send my call sign. And assuming Buzz acknowledges me, his response would typically be WT8P, Buzz, and then his CWOPS number, 1911. So once he acknowledges me, then I respond back. Which is basically, thank you, Jim, and 2456. And then We'll usually say thank you, and we're done. So that's it. That's all that you really need to do to set this up for CWOPS CWT. In a future video, I can do the K1 USN, since that's a more approachable contest for people.